Extroverts tend to more quickly and try to influence situation directly, while introverts give themselves time to develop their insights before exposing them to the world. Extroverts are happy making decisions in the thick of event, while introverts want to reflect before taking action. Extroverts tend to more quickly and try to influence situations directly, while introverts give themselves time to develop their insights before exposing them to the world. Extroverts are happy making decisions in the thick of events, while introverts want to reflect before taking action. The purpose of the informative speech is to provide interesting, useful, and unique information to your audience. By dedicating yourself to the goals of providing information and appealing to your audience, you can take a positive step towards succeeding in your efforts as an informative speaker. The purpose of the informative The purpose of the informative speech is to provide interesting, useful, and unique information to your audience. By dedicating yourself to the goals of providing information and appealing to your audience, you can take a positive step towards succeeding in your efforts as an informative speaker. Most of us spend on average Most most of us spend on average 1,800 hours per year in our jobs, and we work for about 40 years before retirement. When you consider the amount of time spent in the office, you soon realize how important it is to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day rather than just meeting financial objectives. Most of us spend on average 1,800 hours per year in our jobs, and we work for about 40 years before retirement. When you consider the amount of time spent in the office, you soon realize how important it is to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day rather than just meeting financial objectives. Quite obviously, a significant rise in the number of people in a given area or country will affect the demand for a whole host of goods and services. Note that a change in the structure of the population will increase the demand for some goods but reduce the demand for others. Quite obviously, a significant rise in the number Quite obviously, a significant rise in the number of people in a given area or country will affect the demand for a whole host of goods and services. Note that a change in the structure of the population will increase the demand for some goods but reduce the demand for others. With a population of only just over 30 million living in the world's second largest country, Canada is just renowned for vast tracts of wilderness untroubled by population, either from industry or from intensive farming methods. A major conservation issue is the battle to stop logging of virgin forests in northern Ontario and on the west coast. With a population of only just over 30 million living in the world's second largest country, Canada is just renowned for vast tracts of wilderness untroubled by population, either from industry or from intensive farming methods. A major conservation issue is the battle to stop the logging of virgin forests in the northern Ontario and on the west coast. Yes, yet this landscape, which appears so alien and confronting to the white settlers and explorers, has been home for thousands of years to indigenous Australians for whom the plain ranges, and deserts were a sustaining, spiritual, and integral part of their existence. Yet this landscape, which appeared to alien and confronting to the white settlers and explorers, has been home for thousands of years to indigenous Australians, for whom the plains, ranges, and deserts were a sustaining, spiritual, and integral part of their existence. The The interludes which break up the gameplay action and which become they can be made to a higher level of animation often provide the most visually arresting sequences of a game, combined with a taste for bizarrely complicated recursive plot, and long sequences of wordly explicatory dialogue that turn the game into a bit of art. The interludes which break up the gameplay action and which, because they can be made to a higher level of animation, often provide the most visually arresting sequences of a game, combined with a taste of bizarrely complicated recursive plots and a long sequences of wordly explicatory dialogue that turns the game into a bit of a drag.
The elephant is the largest living land mammal.
The elephant is the largest living land mammal.
There are lots of opportunities to meet new people in this course.
There are lots of opportunities to make people to go to school.
The computer crashed and I hadn't saved my work.
I hadn't saved my words.
You must include your name and identity number on the registration form.
You must include your name and identity number on the registration form.
The main issue is to decide how we want to launch the new product.
My issue is how to launch the new products.
This paper is the best one to look at first.
This paper is about one to look at first.
What's going on that can help patients leave their fears at the door?
What is going on to help patients to feel free at the door?
Inflation rose by 2% over this time last year.
The inflation rose 2% at the same time last year.
Applicants for the course should preferably have a degree in English or journalism.
The applicants to this course have to choose between English and journalism.
After 1830, periodicals appeared in large numbers in America.
The periodical appears in a large number in America.
Soil erosion can be caused by increased rainfall and changes in plant growth.
Increasing rainfall and changes in stages. The following lecture gives information about the volunteers who incur expenses, reimbursement available. These items include the postage, phone costs, meals, training, travel costs, uniform, and others. And it's also and the percentage from 0 to 40%. First one, we can see postages, which are around 40%, uniforms are around travel. The following chart gives information about the volunteers who incur expenses, reimbursement available. These items include the postage, phone costs, meals, training, travel costs, uniform, and others, and the percentage from 0 to 40%. First of all, we can see the postages had the highest value, which is around 40%, whereas the uniform had the smallest value, which is around 10%. On the other hand, we can see the phone call had a second largest volume, which is around 20%. In conclusion, this chart is about the volunteers who incur expenses. The following chart gives information about the education base. First of all, this item includes the unemployment rate and median weekly earning. And we can see all the items such as the doctor degree, master degree, bachelor degree, associated degree. Furthermore, we can see the doctor degree have the highest value median weekly earning. The following chart gives information about the education base in 2007. This item includes the unemployment rate and median weekly earning. And on the other hand, other items such as the doctoral degrees, master degrees, bachelor degree, and associated degrees. First of all, we can see the doctor degrees had the highest value of median earning weekly, whereas it had the lowest value unemployment rate in 2007, which is around 1.4%. In conclusion, this chart is about the education base. The following chart gives information about the comparison of the fundamental needs model, Maslow hierarchy of needs. This item includes the esteem needs, stimulation needs, and security needs. On the other hand, we can see there are parameters which include at the bottom of my list. The following picture gives information about the comparison of fundamental needs model with Abraham Maslow hierarchy needs. There is a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, we can see the psychological needs, which include food, water, shelter, and warmth. And the second level, we can see the safety needs, which include the freedom from fears. And the third level, we can see the belonging needs, which include friends, family, loves. Next, we can see the self-esteem needs, respect and recognition. And at the top of the pyramid, we can see the self-actualization needs, creativity and fulfillment. In conclusion, it's very informative.
Coming out of the 19th century with all that happened, and so quickly, some of these ideas, some of these theories, like thermodynamics and kinetic theory, they didn't blend the way they should have. Thermodynamics has its roots in matter, how material things respond to heat and temperature and so forth. The laws of thermodynamics were thought to be absolute. Now take kinetic theory. If matter consists of atoms in random motion, and that's what matter is, then you open up the possibility that there will be fluctuations in samples of matter such that the laws of thermodynamics can momentarily be violated. Are the laws of thermodynamics valid? Absolute? Are they obeyed statistically? On average, they're obeyed, but they can be violated during unusual times, all right?
The following lecture gives information about the 19th century interplay of physical theory. First of all, the speaker talked about in 19th century what happened in the physical theories. Next, he talked about the information about the thermodynamics, which in the material, how the material respond to the heat and temperatures, and the matter can respond to the heat and material. Next, he also mentioned information about the kinetic theory, atom is random motion, and the fluctuation in the matter, and kinetic theory actions in random motion. In conclusion, this lecture is very informative.
What is the term for the money people pay to the government to support public services?
Tax.
What material is normally used to make windows and light bulbs?
Glass.
Who prepares and sells medicine in a shop or hospital?
Pharmacist.
Where on a college campus would a periodicals collection be located?
The horn. Horn.
What is the inedible center of a peach, cherry, or grape called?
I don't know.
To find a detailed topographical map of Africa, what kind of reference book would be best to use?
Geological book. Map. You can go to ingredient.
For many people, language acquisition starts at around about 12 months when kids say their first word, but don't forget the first year. That first year of life is very important as well, and indeed before you're born, remember there are a couple of months before you're born when you're actually able to perceive in the womb something of the language that's around you. So language acquisition starts earlier than most people think. And it also ends later than most people think. When does child language acquisition stop? Well, in a sense, you know, we're all children. We stay being children all our lives. There's no obvious end point. For learning sounds, of course, there is, and for learning grammar, there is, but vocabulary, I mean, that goes on for the rest of our lives. 1 million or more words in English, and most of us only have a vocabulary of 50, 60, 70,000 words or whatever it is, and so there's always something more to learn. So remember that the two ends of child language acquisition are wider apart than some people think, and that means there's more scope for studying it than most people think.
In his book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Other Clinical Tales, neurologist Oliver Sacks relates the tale of a medical student who one day woke up and found that his sense of smell was so acute that like a dog he could walk around identifying people, places, and things by his sense of smell. And what a wondrous experience it was. Like a visit to another world, he said. And normally we humans don't have a sense of smell as acute as many other animals. We tend to rely more on what we see or hear to tell us about the world. Still, our sense of smell is powerful. Most of us can detect 10,000 different odors, from cigar smoke to a chlorinated swimming pool, from curry to a city sewer. And think about how a particular odor can instantly conjure up past memories. Maybe it's fresh cut grass that makes you think of childhood summers, or baking bread that reminds you of a special holiday.
Experimental psychological research is conducted in a lab under controlled conditions. It attempts to rely solely on an application of research methods to understand behavior and mental processes. As an example of a psychological experiment, you might want to investigate people's perception of different tones. Specifically, you could ask the following question. Is it easier for people to discriminate one pair of tones from another depending on their frequency? To answer this, you would want to disprove the hypothesis that all tones are equally easy to discriminate.
Graham Greene may have inadvertently supplied one of the key phrases of the past 50 years in the title of his novel, A Burnt-Out Case. The image of a dead fire perfectly fit the psychological aftermath of long hours, dashed hopes, and depression. And while burnout is not a medical diagnosis, it describes a condition we all recognize, except perhaps in ourselves.
Be present.
Well, the banana is the first cultivated fruit. It's one of the food items that literally brought people out of the jungle, out of their hunter-gatherer lifestyles, and was there at the dawn of agriculture, which is what helped force human beings into communities. It's really one of the things that helped invent human culture. It's about 7,000 years of history. And the banana, from its center of origin, which is believed to be Papua New Guinea, it spread out with people who traveled in boats across the Pacific into the mainland of Asia and all the way south to Australia, across Indonesia, Micronesia, and eventually they moved as far as Africa and even possibly to Ecuador, all in this time and all on paddled boats and wind-driven boats.
In the United States, the poet Walt Whitman published a work called Democratic Vistas. This was in 1871, and I quote from that work. He's talking here about the development of a program of culture drawn out, not for a single class alone, or for the parlors or lecture rooms, but with an eye to the practical life and to the West, the working man, the facts and forms and jack planes and engines, of the broad range of the woman also, of the middle class and working strata, and with reference to the perfect equal quality of women and of a grand and powerful motherhood. So these ideas of the individual, the ordinary individual, as someone who has a right and a responsibility to an education, had begun clearly to emerge in the United States.
So starting with a question why industrial cities matter. Well, in 1995 and 6, funded by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, I did a study with a fellow researcher called The Slow Death of Great Cities. And that was because urban abandonment in America was happening on such a scale and causing such terror over here that when cities like Manchester and Newcastle started to show signs of empty properties emerging in their city streets, in their inner city streets, there was kind of quite serious panic. So that was my first exposure to what happens when cities start losing population in a significant way.
And we identified 15 priority projects which are supposed to be urgent and immediate needs of adaptation. And these projects, the first one is slightly being implemented, but there is so much bureaucracy behind the funding of that project that it still hasn't been implemented properly. So if these were urgent and immediate needs, then how come it's not being implemented on an urgent and immediate basis? Because the fund is not there. Even if the fund is there, some bureaucratic things are holding it behind. There are some of the funds, they say, like, you have to have certain infrastructures in place and certain things have to be in place for us to fund this additional climate change. But the funds are, what everyone says in these climate change conferences, are not enough. They're just not enough.
When I was 14 years old, a visionary visited my school. The man was a pioneer in new technologies, and he had come to announce how the world I was growing up in was on the verge of radical change. He brandished a VHS cassette and announced that television was going to be transformed forever. Using the power of VHS, everyone would make their own TV programs. Instead of accepting the bland output of comedy and drama from the existing networks, we would simply take control ourselves and become producers as well as consumers. TV stations were going to close, corporations would fold, and a new wave of creativity was about to be unleashed. To me, at that age, it seemed like impeccable logic, and the scenario he described seemed inevitable. Over the following years, it became clear that what he had predicted was certainly not coming true, and I began to think of him as an idiot.
The neuroendocrine system is under particular onslaught in our modern life. Not only does it serve as the conduit for our emotional life, but it is also under threat from our external environment. The amount of chemicals acting as so-called endocrine disruptors is going up by the day. These chemicals, which range from pesticides and herbicides to ingredients of plastics, which look chemically like some of the hormones in our bodies, can then bind to the receptor and cause a stimulation of the receptor, or block it so that the appropriate hormone cannot
Logistics is really orchestrating what we now call globalization. Companies have outsourced and offshored many of their operations. In fact, some of them, almost their entire operations. And what's come to be called supply chain management, which is the strategic end of this business, is what knits it all together. It is what makes sure that things turn up where they should be, when they should be. And by squeezing costs out of the system, you don't carry so much stock, you don't need to have the warehouses of old, and you can move things faster and
River systems can be classified by their basic shapes. Young streams are generally straight, are in narrow, steep-sided valleys, and are often fast-flowing in a channel with many big rocks. Young streams have high gradients, meaning the elevation of the stream changes quickly with distance. Old rivers are in broad, flat valleys. They flow slowly and carry sand and mud. Old streams, like the lower part of the Mississippi River, have very low gradients. That is, the elevation changes very little over long distances.
Over half of patients had what we called the no symptoms, no asthma health belief. They thought about and managed their asthma as an acute episodic illness, the way someone would treat a cold or a flu. They felt when they had their wheezing or shortness of breath, that's when they had their asthma, and it made perfect sense for them to use their quick relief medicines and their chronic controller medicines then. But once they started feeling better, they felt there was no reason for using those medicines because they felt okay.
It is absolutely vital that you acknowledge all your sources.
In any written assignment, a detailed literature review is very important.
Control systems in manufacturing provide a high level of accuracy.